All right. Coming to you from the podcast studio. It's impressive and it's somewhere on church grounds, but we can't tell you where or we'd have to kill you. It is Reverend Tasha Blackburn, and I'm here at a very special episode of the One PresPod dropping into your feed when we may or may not know who our next president is. I don't know. And I'm here with Jarred Rego, who also, I think, doesn't know.
I have no idea. That is certain.
Do you not have special powers? You have the red telephone.
Yeah, I do not.
Yeah, to the presidential election. Well, we are coming to you before those votes are tallied. And we know the national race has been on a lot of our minds and taken up a lot of our energy. But guess what? You voted now. And it matters deeply who our president is, of course. But what really, really matters for what level of participation we can have and ability to see change is at the local level. So I've got Jarred Rego here with me today. Hello, Jarred.
Hello, and I'm not just a commentator or an opiner in this space. I actually serve
am
on our local city council here at Fort Smith.
I was going to say all your titles.
I'm on the city board of directors. I'm the city director for Ward 1, and I serve as the vice mayor. And Ward 1 is kind of the center part of town. I call it the postcard district of Fort Smith. Basically, anything that's not at Chaffee Crossing that you would put on a postcard.
Exactly, including our library.
That's right.
And all the beautiful churches, including ours.
That's right.
Things like that, yeah.
Most of the parks in the system, University of Arkansas, Fort Smith, the National Cemetery, downtown, Regional Art Museum, etc. The eastern boundary is roughly 74th Street, out just beyond Mercy Hospital. The north boundary is Grand Avenue, although it goes north of that a few spots here and there. Southern boundary runs along to the south from the east, south of Rogers Avenue just a little bit, then kind of hugs down as you get to the west all the way down to like South X Street and encompasses all of Park Hill. And then the western boundary is the state line with Oklahoma.
The river.
That's right. That's right.
How many constituents do you have in the river, would you say?
Well, hopefully none. Hopefully none.
Hopefully none. The weather has turned chilly. Hopefully none. Exactly. Well, and so how long have you been representing Ward 1?
I was elected in 2020 and started my term in January of 2021. So almost 4 years.
Wow, almost 4 years. I feel like we should make one of those masks that they make for presidents, of like when they started their term and how young they looked. And then they show their aging progression. No, you look great, Jarred. You look great. But let's be honest. Governance, working with people, being an elected official, it's going to have a lot of ins and outs, and it's going to have a lot of opinions around it, and it's a lot of work. So what made you, when you moved here where your wife's family's from, when you moved to Fort Smith and brought the family back here, what made you want to be involved in local politics? And had you been involved before? Yes.
I have a political science degree from the University of New Hampshire. I've always been interested in politics and involved in politics. I've served in leadership roles on campaigns, well over a dozen campaigns at the federal, state, and local level in 4 different states now.
Wow.
And so it's just something I've always been interested in. And when I moved to town, where our house is, my state representative at the time was George McGill.
Yeah.
And we got to know each other just like I got to know a lot of people when I moved to town. And he was running for mayor at the time at the start of his campaign. And he asked me to run that campaign for him, which was a really big amount of trust to put in a new person in the community.
Yeah.
And the mayor was able to be successful, winning 57% of the vote in a 3-way race, which is hard to do. And so I've been involved locally, politically ever since that race. And in late 2019, Keith Law, who was my predecessor on the city board of directors, he announced that he was not running for a 3rd term in office. And so the seat was going to be open. And the mayor and other people encouraged me to run. And I was elected in 2020 and was recently reelected for a 2nd term a few months ago.
Wow. So why? Why? I mean, you got 3 little kids. You have a full-time job. I don't know that with your extra time, you're sitting around and eating bonbons. I mean, maybe it's a personal, not bonbons, Doritos.
That's
no,
right. Yes.
but there's 82 million things you could do with your time and with your energy that you have left over after work and family and, your own health of sleeping and eating. Why? What makes you committed to it? To the local piece of it,
sure.
Especially.
Well, number one, that's where you can make the most difference. And I've always believed in trying to make a positive difference where you live. I've lived in 9 different states. And so I've seen a lot, experienced a lot, and done a lot, and can bring a lot to bear on problems and challenges and issues. And I'm doing it for my kids, really. I want to make sure that this is a place where they want to be and not just be from. And so, there's a lot that can be done when it comes to how you invest, how you reinvest in your community, how you choose to allocate resources, what you choose to prioritize or not prioritize, the entities you try to build up. And so it's hard work, but it's work worth doing.
Mm-hmm. It is hard work. How many hours a week would you say you spend on it? The meetings are every week, right?
Yeah, we meet every Tuesday at 6:00 at the Blue Lion down on 2nd Street near 21 West End, and where the Farmers Market parking lot is. You can park for free there and come to the city council meetings.
And those are open to people can just come and watch.
Yeah, they're open, and they're also streamed live on fortsmithar.gov/watch, also on YouTube. So if you can't make it down in person, you can watch a really nice broadcast of the meeting. Each meeting these days.
So how much time would you say you spend?
Oh, well, the meetings themselves run anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 hours these days. And it's somewhere between 10 and 15 hours, sometimes 20 hours a week on just, various, messages, calls, emails you have to respond to, things you're trying to think about, things you're trying to come up with, meetings you're having with people. So it's a substantial commitment of time and energy.
Yes, it is. I'm thinking about 15 or 20 hours a week. That's quite a commitment. And that's quite a commitment that it's not just you. I mean, we have a whole board of city directors who are setting aside their time and their energy for that. That's pretty amazing to think about it for our community of what, under 100,000, that we would have a handful of folks willing to do that. And to also, take votes not everybody's going to take votes, maybe everybody likes except their spouse, and then they hear about it at home. You're always going to take a vote, right? That it's not going to be 100%, that everybody loves every vote. No,
you're certainly right about that. I think.
Have you noticed that?
I have from time to time. In the Republican form of government that we have, small r, Republican form of government, the idea is that a community says, we want to select, in our case, 7 people to represent us, represent the whole in the structure of government. And we trust these 7 people to put in the time and put in the effort and the energy and be informed and see the totality of the picture on a story or a topic or an issue, and then use their skills and abilities combined with the time that they've spent learning about the topic and knowing about the topic to make the decision that's best for the big picture and for the broadest scope of people. You cannot count on everyone having, receiving the exact same amount of information. And it's why we're not a plebiscite. It's why we're not a direct democracy. It's why we have a republic with representatives who are entrusted to go forward and get the whole picture on something and then make a decision. And so, sometimes that whole picture's appreciated, and sometimes a sliver of the picture is elevated over the rest of the picture.
Yeah.
And that causes friction sometimes.
I've heard it can.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard tell, but just rumors, distant rumors.
That's right.
Well, okay, we wanted to drop this right around election time because, you know, some of us may have put out yard signs. Hopefully all of us voted. Some of us may have spent way too many hours than we'd like to admit sitting on our couches at night and watching Newsmax, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, whatever, watching something about all these national things. And yet I think we want to posit today that no matter how that election goes, if you want to be patriotic, if you want to care about where you live, be patriotic this way too. This is a really exciting way to be patriotic, is to be in the local arena. So what do you wish every Fort Smithian, or, you know, our podcast reach is wide, Jarred? I mean, there's
no doubt.
There's 10s and 20s of people who listen to this podcast. So what would you, if you could tell them anything,
them all individually?
I will thank them by name alphabetically at the end. What would you most want them to know about, if you want to take an interest in sort of being patriotic about your local area? What would it be? The 1, 2, 3 things that they really could kind of, this is something I can tangibly do now in my own life to be more involved and patriotic even in your local area.
Yeah, I would say the number one thing is just that you have the opportunity to be involved. So, for instance, our park system. So we have dedicated sales tax revenue that is explicitly set aside for use in our park system. So, and I can't quote the number, chapter and verse, off the top of my head, but it's a, not insignificant amount of money. So we have a parks commission made up of, dedicated volunteers that get the first crack at sort of deciding or endeavoring to come up with, okay, this year we're going to have X amount of dollars that come in from the sales tax revenue. How would we like to allocate these funds this year? So which park do we want to invest in? And I'm sure everyone has noticed over the last 5 years, the millions and millions of dollars of reinvestment into our park system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very good thing. And I've been pleased to support all of that. And so they decide, okay, well, we've got X amount to spend, and here's what we think we should do for our parks. And just like everything in life, there's almost always more needs
I
than
can
there
spend
is
that
money.
money 8 times.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's a real chance, for instance, for the parks commissioners to steer that ship in a direction where they think it will be beneficial to the most number of users of the park system. And then, of course, their work comes in front of the board of directors. And many, many times we appreciate and approve what they've done. But there are times where we make modest adjustments to the things that the Parks Commission has prioritized. So, maybe they say it should be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we say, well, actually it should go 1, 5, 2, 3, 4, because we want to move this one up because we think, this one could get done faster and, et cetera, et cetera. So, when you look at fortsmithar.gov and you see the boards and commissions, almost once or twice a month, there are times where we are appointing residents to serve on things like the Parks Commission or the future Fort Smith Commission. Or
How often did you say just now?
Oh, at least once a month, sometimes twice a month.
So if we go on fortsmithar.gov
and
once or twice a month, they're looking for volunteers.
Oh yeah, there's kind of an open enrollment, if you will, where you can put in an application where you share a little bit about yourself, your employment history, maybe a couple references of people that, you would speak highly of you. And then there's a list and you can check and say, well, hey, every time there's a vacancy on, the Planning Commission, the Parks Commission, the Civil Service Commission, I want my name to be
interesting
under consideration. And so then what happens is a vacancy will occur on one of those boards or commissions. And those of us on the board of directors, because we do the appointments, will call those folks that are in the pool. And we'll just kind of do, get to know you chats or sort of interviews with folks. And we ask a handful of questions and kind of delve a little deeper into why you have an interest in serving on a particular board or commission. And then we have, say there's a vacancy or two and we've got a pool of, 4 or 5 to choose from. We'll decide amongst ourselves, who we want to appoint. And then the ones that don't make that vacancy, they're still in the pool. So you have lots of instances where there'll be one vacancy and you'll have 3 great people.
Yeah.
And you
good
pick
problem.
a person. And then the next time you make sure that the second person goes in and then the third person.
And is that a year commitment, a 2-year, a 3-year?
They vary.
They vary. Yeah. Okay.
And then, we're all, I would say, very accessible. So if you are following along with an issue of the day and you make it a point every Tuesday evening to sort of have a little bit of awareness about what we're working on at the city level, you can email us all. Our email addresses are all right on fortsmithar.gov. Our phone numbers are on there. I'm 522-3277. We all have social media that we're fairly responsive to. And I would just say that my experience has been that we're a very accessible branch of government if you choose to reach out to us and share your thoughts and weigh in with how you feel about, the topics of note. Now, we're not always going to agree necessarily, but I have found myself and my colleagues are at least willing to interact.
The 7 of you don't all agree on anything. Why would, it's okay. We can disagree. Yeah. And we can still have the same goals, broad goals, and disagree within them. Okay, so I'm going to say it because I think you're too nice to. So I think it's great to have people contact you. I think it's great to have people want to do follow-up questions about what you voted on or whatever. I also know that I'm a Presbyterian pastor and we run ourselves by committees, which means often, not that this has ever happened at this church, but often I feel like I will have spent hours on some topic to take to a committee and then it'll be a big vote. It's a big thing we need to talk about or whatever. And I feel like I'm the only one in the room. Everyone else opens their laptop and it's the first time they've seen it. And the first time they've had a thought, and their thoughts can go like this because it's the first time I've had a thought about it. Even if they've received information and everything all along the way. Never happened to hear Jarred, let's just say. But so if somebody says, okay, I actually am a person who has opinions. I am a person who loves my city and has thoughts about it, but I want to be more educated on the matter before I start to complain or before I think I have the idea that's going to solve everything. So where would I be able to find the original source material, kind of?
Yeah, so that's a great question.
To not be the person, not at this church, who comes into the committee meeting and has amazing thoughts, but has never thought about it. Yeah.
So on fortsmithar.gov, we invested a couple years ago in really updating and dragging the city website into the 21st century. If you visited the website prior to about 2 years ago, I would say that was a subpar experience. From a user perspective, that's no longer the case. And I would say that the thing that everyone should do is sign up for the Gov delivery system that we have on fortsmithar.gov, which is a text or email notification system that you sign up for with your email address or your telephone number. And you can select, I want to get an email or a text message when the board of directors agenda comes out on Thursday afternoons, usually, sometimes Friday mornings ahead of the Tuesday meeting. I want to get every notification that the police department sends out. I want to get notifications that the fire department sends out. I want to receive notifications when the Parks Commission is having their meetings and when their agenda is.
You can do them all separately too. Yeah. So you could pick. Yeah.
And so, for instance,
I care not about fire. I do care about parks.
Sure,
whatever
sure.
you could pick.
And there's a handful to choose from. And for instance, the police department, as I'm sure those of the listeners who've used it before, they do a really good job of updating and sending out messages when there are traffic accidents around the city. So like if you in your job have movement you have to do during the day and you got to get across town, you take a look and see, do you have any notifications about, oh, there's a fender bender at 540 in Rogers. Ooh, I should probably avoid that intersection. So it's a very helpful system, Gov Delivery, and it's right on the homepage at fortsmithar.gov.
Interesting. And so then I can basically be reading all the same documents you're receiving for your Tuesday meeting.
Yep. At the same time. We don't get it sent early, any earlier to us than it's available to the public.
Mm-hmm. So then that's also a helpful thing, I'm thinking, because so many people now, I'm told by NPR, that so many people get their news from social media now as their news site, not just as their platform for fun kind of thing. So if mistaken information or only half the information is making its way on social media, this is a way we can even just be a good neighbor to go, actually, I'm going to go, before I go post that or repost it or,
that's right,
just fall for it.
Yeah. I think it's the old Abraham Lincoln quote that the lie can get around the world before the truth can get its pants on. I mean, it's very true. Yeah. And I mean, I'll warn you, meeting agendas average around 400 pages. And so it takes effort, it takes commitment to inform yourself to the fullest extent. And social media and what you may or may not see or read is sometimes an easy way out.
Yeah, that's not going to fit in 400 pages.
No.
You can't fit a tweet in.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But I think, isn't there sort of an analysis sheet or a cover sheet that maybe helps folks?
Oh, sure. I mean, every item.
You don't have to laboriously read all 400 pages if you aren't putting in 15 to 20 hours a week on it. I think there's some helps, aren't there, along the way?
Every item has a cover sheet memorandum attached to it that sort of summarizes the topic at hand and explains the fuller materials that are forthcoming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're getting me excited about things we could sign up to do. I mean, I'm a big fan of the parks. I'm still mulling over the park commission things, ways for us to get involved and love our community and want it to be better.
Well, we always desire in any kind of group or volunteer or pseudo volunteer driven effort to have the widest possible pool of participants, because it ends up like a pyramid. If you've got a wide base, you're going to stay stronger and sturdier the more you move up the pyramid, because of course not everybody participates equally, and not everybody volunteers the same amount of time or has the ability to serve on the same number of commissions.
No.
But you don't want to be in a situation where you turn around and you go, man, it's like the same 30 people that are involved.
Yeah. That's not a real wide base.
No.
Yeah. To represent the whole community.
That's right.
Yeah. I really appreciate you. Okay. Say your phone number again and say the website again, if you would, because those are so important, I think, for folks.
It's fortsmithar.gov. Like I say, great new city website. Lots of really helpful information on there. And I'm Jarred.Rego at fortsmithar.gov, JARRED.REGO. And the phone number is 522-3277.
Okay, if it's all right, I want to end with us each sharing something we do love about Fort Smith, about our community. And since I've just now thrown this at you, I'll go first. I hope I don't make everybody mad. I hope I don't make the 10s and 20s and 30s of our listeners mad, but I am an outsider. I know you're shocked. I am from
Me too.
Missouri. I know we are both the outlaws, not the in-laws. I'm from Central Missouri and have kind of Midwest background even behind that. And so when I knew we were going to come to Arkansas, I must confess, fear and trembling, a lot of fear and trembling. Because I always joke that every state has to have a nearby state that they kick around. And for Arkansas, it's Oklahoma. Of course, I mean, that's a given, right? Now I've made our Oklahoma viewers angry, listeners angry. But for Missouri, it's Arkansas. That's who we kick around. That's what I heard my whole life growing up was don't go down to Arkansas. And even Southern Missouri is getting close. I mean, they would say that all the time. So fear and trembling when we got here. And what I love about Fort Smith is it was a great surprise to me that it did not fit almost any of the stereotypes I had and biases I had, frankly, coming in. I read an article once about our town after I'd moved here that we are the most ethnically, demographically diverse city in all of Arkansas by population, more so than Little Rock.
Sure.
More so than Northwest Arkansas because of Fort Chaffee. I mean, you can't swing a stick in this town without hitting a bowl of pho, or without, we got a couple mosques, we've got several temples. I love it. I love that we are this community of under 100,000, and yet we can hold diversity among us. And it can be a gift and not a problem. It's not a problem. It only enhances our community. And that was a surprise to me when I thought I was going to come to sort of, I don't know, here I'm going to say it, bubble world. And I love that it surprised me. I love that about Fort Smith.
Yeah.
Okay, I talked long enough that I gave you time to think about.
No, I, like I said, I've lived all over the place. My dad was in the Air Force for 31 years. And so we went all over the country growing up, and my quality of life's never been higher than the last 7.5 years that I've lived here in Fort Smith. Like Mayor McGill says, Fort Smith's bursting at the seams with good people. People who are willing to help, people who will give you the shirt off their back, proverbially and literally.
They might literally,
people that want to help and want to be helpful. And, both of those things are very appealing to me. And just the fact that our story is not completely written yet. That's tremendously cool, to be honest with you, because there's lots of places in the country where the story is written and they're in the mass production era. Nashville is Music City, right? And that's great. And it's wonderful. And everybody likes going to Nashville. Yeah. But you can't change what Nashville is anymore. If you're a young person, or you're a person who wants to make a difference, or you're fired up about a new idea or a thing you have that you want to share or want to try and create, if it's not in the Music City brand or bucket, thank you, sir or ma'am. Like we're really happy with what we're doing. And, if you want to help with this, like that's fantastic. But if you've got something new or outside the box, no. Find your spot on the assembly line.
And the t-shirts have been made.
Right.
You have to wear them. Yeah.
And so, I just think that it's sort of like the ground floor community. Like we're getting in on the ground floor on a lot of exciting things, growth that's happening, downtown and all over town, spaces like the Bakery District, independent businesses like, Bookish or Fort Smith Coffee Company or 810.
I know the billiards and bowling. I know.
And with the new military mission coming in, it's an exciting time to be here and to get in on that ground floor of what's going to be some really positive growth and transformation and development and change.
Curiosity.
Wow,
what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like it's great to be able to be curious.
That's right.
And not fully know because it's not fully written.
That's right.
Yeah. I like that. We're a ground floor city and you live in the postage stamp ward. Okay,
That's
I'm going to take both of those lines with
Please
me
do.
as well.
Please do.
Thank you,
The
Jarred.
postcard.
The postcard. I'm sorry. What did I say? Stamp. That's my locus of control is the postage stamp, Jarred. See, I brought us full circle back to the
postage
election.
stamp is too small to fit everything that Ward 1 has.
That's right. It has to have a whole postcard.
That's
it
right.
needs a whole pamphlet, a whole brochure.
Yes.
I really appreciate you doing this with me.
You're welcome.
And I'm excited. I think this is going to help our audience, and I hope this spreads viral. Somebody says, "Oh, you got to hear this about how we can get involved." I love it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jarred. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.